Welcome to this episode of Driving Transformation, Delivering Returns. Today, we're spotlighting a remarkable story. It's about a portfolio company, Ecofy. It's a one-of-a-kind green NBFC focused on lending against green assets to individuals and businesses. And joining us today are Rajashree Nambiar, CEO and co-founder, Ecofy, and my colleague Rohit, MD at Eversource Capital.
Thank you, Dhanpal. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and to share our Ecofy journey.
Ecofy has been always close to our heart. This is our youngest portfolio company, and this is perfect example of the institution building that we at Eversource wanted to drive at. When we looked at Ecofy, or when we incubated in Ecofy, we were very clear about one thing. The green transition, the transition to net zero for India cannot happen without the retail participation. And therefore, Ecofy was conceived with green assets and retail household names in terms of their participation to be included as a part of the credit flows. And that was the core of Ecofy.
Exactly, Rohit. And that's why, Rajashree, it's very interesting that as a very successful leader in the financial services industry, you could have pretty much taken on a role of your choice. So what is it really that was the spark? What is it that really drove you? And what was your, if I might say, moment of truth to be part of Ecofy?
So, Dhanpal, I'll take you back to April 2022 when we both first met. And I remember a conversation where you had this idea about a green finance business in India. When I met you, I had completed 30 years in the financial services space, the last 7 years of which I had been in the top job. But when you spoke about the green finance business, there were two things that came to my mind. Firstly, the fact that India did have a 2070 net zero goal. And if indeed it had to follow the 2070 aspiration, there was a huge climate financing gap which was opened up. This was almost 7 to 8 trillion INR over the next 3 to 5 years when we spoke in 2022. But most of the work that had happened on the climate financing space had been largely in the wholesale and the project scale utility programs. There was very little that was being done at the retail end. So that was, to my mind, a very clear gap which seemed to be there. Secondly, coming in from the lending industry, there was a lot of things happening. The lending business was evolving. There were new age lenders and they were reaching out to new customer segments. What really came to my mind is what finance could really do to address the need of the hour, the climate question. And we thought that let's build a capability, let's build a platform that we can leverage and really drive this green transition from the retail end. And that is how the idea of Ecofy was born. So really, once we decided it would be a retail business and it would be a contemporary business, the question was, how do you address a large question like the green question? And we said for the green transition in India, there were three sectors which were contributing primarily to this climate problem. It was energy, it was mobility, and it was food. And then we looked deeper into to see which of these sectors would give us a granular business, would give us a large disbursement potential. And we thought where we could have market accessibility, and we zeroed in on energy and we zeroed in on mobility. So today, the Ecofy product suite has financing of electric vehicles, two-wheelers and three-wheelers. It has financing of rooftop solar installations. And that is really how it's been done. We dispersed the first green loan, Dhanpal, in November of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Since then, I think the impact that we wanted to create has happened. We would have saved emissions of 6 lakh tons of carbon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've built a very nice green platform, lending platform, which is new age, which has specialized underwriting ability and which really has multiple differentiators. I believe this is a platform which is ready to scale and will also deliver superior returns.
The critical thing to note here is the fact that Ecofy was conceived digital first. So it was not hobbled with
So
any
no
of the
legacy
no
systems.
legacy systems, no paper-based trail, no thousands of feet on street, no branches. So it was conceived as digital first. More importantly, the human element, which is basically changing lives while reducing the carbon emissions, was kept at the center of the Ecofy mission. And therefore, our ability to conceive the business kind of scaled up pretty much immediately. Rashri, don't you think we did our first loan pretty much in the 3 days of RBI license?
Absolutely. Very quickly, the same month that we received the license from the Reserve Bank of India.
This has been really transformative. You know, Ecofy got its license in November 2022, and you have rapidly grown into a NBFC with 120,000 customers, 1,400 crores of AUM. Really, what drove this fast pace of growth and scale? And this whole unique model of partnerships, embedded lending, is again something that would be very interesting to understand how you went about this journey.
Yes, that's true. So if you look at Ecofy, it has very clear characteristics. If I may repeat, it's 100% digital. So the business is built in a manner, there's absolutely no wholesale business. It is 100% direct sourcing. We actually do not have DSA sourcing, or we do not pay loan intermediaries in the way we build this up. It's also 100% digital in the way that we actually process the loans. It is 100% embedded lending, which really means in the context of a non-bank, we know exactly what the end use of these loans is because the money is never given in the hand of the borrower.
I think this is what makes the differentiation, the purity of purpose. Ecofy exists for the green loan, enables the green transition. Today, we have more than 120,000 plus borrowers. I don't think at least half of them would have made the green transition without Ecofy being present. And that's the impact that we are building in. Sorry.
Yes, thanks, Arti, for the clarification. The way that we build this business and to reach the scale that we have so far, uh, unlike traditional lenders who really have brick and mortar infrastructure and walk in traffic from whom they actually get the customers, we have built this business completely on the pillars of collaboration and openness. And that's why we believe that we are a contemporary company. What we've done is we've actually stitched up partnerships with more than 120 OEMs in India. These OEMs actually capture 80% of the demand for these green assets. And because of the OEM's strengths, distribution strengths, we as a company, without having branches, we have actually reached more than 1,000 dealerships and 500 cities in India. So this unique go-to-market approach has allowed us to spread and really acquire customers. What is interesting on the technology, if you have to, today we have 120,000 green loans that we would have dispersed. And as Rohit mentioned, our AUM has crossed 1,400 crores. If you had to do a retail business of this scale without branches, it's absolutely amply clear that we've used technology as our backbone. I would like to say that 95% of our loans are completely straight through processed. 100% of our loans are paperless. 95% of our loans are done through scorecards, which are AI and ML driven. We do not use discretionary or do discretionary lending at all. And whatever loan, however complex, you may take from Ecofy, we are very sure that we will be able to decision that loan in less than 180 seconds. And that's the Ecofy promise.
Isn't this exactly how a sustainable investing should work? Innovation, capital, a great team, and the impact that it generates. So, isn't it, Rashri, just the people story at the end of it?
Yes, Rohit. What you see today in Ecofy, what we've built up today, is actually a story of frenetic activity and intense efforts at Ecofy. What began as a simple idea today has been brought to this scale by almost 800 people who actually are there serving Ecofy. Let me also tell you about how we are making an impact externally. Our go to market strategy is partnerships with OEMs. Today, I mentioned to you we have 120 plus partnerships that we've stitched up, and that has taken us to every length and breadth of the country. This partnership these OEMs mop up 80% of the demand. What we do is we actually track our competitors' share and we look at our own wallet share from within these OEMs. As a result of which, in a period of 3 years, we've reached a market share of 5% in two-wheelers, 2% in three-wheelers, and more than 10% in rooftop solar residential. So that is how essentially our partnership with the OEMs has helped us to capture the market share. While we're doing this, we've also really invested on the tech backend. We have recently launched a state-of-the-art loan origination system, which is catering to the green business that we do. We believe that we are building a B2C brand, and brand recall becomes important for us. We are a young company, but today we enjoy 59% brand recall. I think it's quite impressive for our age. We are also interested in our existing customers and what they think of us. We enjoy a plus 81 net promoter score. While we do not spend a lot of money, digital marketing money, we do spend time in engaging and activating our local catchments. We do dealer events, exhibitions, BTL activities near and about where we do actually do business. And that is how we are really spreading the word of Ecofy ahead.
So, in our business, we always talk about green transitions in the form of megawatts or kilowatt hours, in the form of, EVs and e-miles, but there is also a deeper, I would say, human side to this entire problem. There is that human role and impact role that Ecofy plays. Do you want to elaborate on that?
And let me answer it in three ways. Firstly, something as simple as what other companies are looking at as a goal, a net zero goal. I'd like to say that Ecofy from day one is net positive, actually. The reason beyond that is that every loan that we disburse, we actually have an impact on the climate side. I mentioned to you 120.
A positive impact.
A positive impact. I mentioned to you 120,000 loans. It translates to 6 lakh tons of carbon emissions so far, just by the green investment portfolio that we may have created. The second point I want to specify is that we are just not a lender who is out to essentially reduce carbon emissions. That's not what it is. We think that we make meaningful difference in the lives of our borrowers. Out of the 120,000 loans that we would have disbursed, more than half of those loans, we would have actually placed substantial savings for our borrowers.
What an incredible story. I think at the end of the day, we all realize building businesses in India or building businesses anywhere, right, has its own set of trials and challenges. There's always some doubts. There are always questions in the way we are trying to operate. And one of the questions I'm sure must have been that you're operating in a very niche space. Another question I'm sure must be that, how do you build a business without branches? And I'm sure many more questions that you may have gone through. As you've scaled this business, what have been your kind of, I would say, impediments, and how have you thought about it, and what is it that you look to solve for?
Absolutely. You're right there, Dhanpal. These are the two strident questions that we always face. A, have you chosen something too niche for yourselves? And B, if you're that niche, how do you plan to scale from where you are? Actually, let me answer it this way. First, let's talk about scale. I think this niche is our strength. And if I look at just the 4 segments, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, rooftop, and SME that we've branched into, if I look at the total addressable market over the next 5 years, it's easily 15 to 20 billion US dollars. I'd like to believe that there is enough headroom for growth and potential business if we really want to scale and can scale. So I don't believe that is an impediment. The second point is, if you're that niche, how do you grow? I like to believe, since I embarked on this journey 3 years back, niche is actually our strength. Niche is not at all a disadvantage. I believe many of the things we've done in the last 3 years were because we were operating in a niche category.
In fact, that's the key part of it. So if you look at it, when the Ecofy was conceived, that was precise problem that we in fact tackled. That is it really such a small niche that somebody should be even bothered about it? And we realize it's a very large market, and more importantly, it's a very highly growing market. So both the elements, one is the large segment as well as growth, tick the boxes heavily. Second factor that is key is a niche becomes, as Rajashree said, a strength when you understand the product. And therefore, Ecofy invested heavily in understanding the product. I wouldn't say that we have reached to the whatever we have to know, but we are the ones who understand how to evaluate a rooftop solar, how to evaluate electric vehicles, how should we look at the residual value, especially in the market for products like two-wheeler or three-wheeler. And that is what is giving us our niche. And that will build our moat for this business.
And you're right, Rohit, and that is why I want to specify, let me say, a couple of use cases. Today, we are India's largest residential rooftop solar financier amongst NBFCs. 3 years back, we pioneered the rooftop solar residential journey. We actually devised that entire process of digitizing a complex product like rooftop solar. And that is because we were working on the niche and trying to find solutions. On the green assets, is really this paucity of a secondary market for the assets that come out of Ecofy. I think this niche is pushing us to look at redeployment, resale platform, and looking at how we can create a second life for some of the assets that are coming off the Ecofy portfolio. That is another example. The product suite of not only looking at loans, but also leases and battery subscriptions comes out because we look at green assets as a niche and the only category in which we will work. So there again. But finally, Rohit and Dhanpal, I should be candid to admit that there are challenges which come to a company of our stage and age. I think having a parentage of such institutional investors like Eversource and FMO has been a huge advantage for us. We are also very happy and proud to actually welcome BII and FinFund now onto the Ecofy table. And the institutional investors and our parentage has actually helped us open doors and actually alleviate many of the challenges some other companies like us could face. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I think the critical part here is to know that money is the raw material for NBFC. So getting leverage becomes the most critical aspect of the business. And because of this parentage and the corporate governance systems that were in place, Ecofy probably would be the only NBFC without the parentage of the industrial group or something like that, starting with a BBB plus rating from CRISIL, and in less than 3 years, having more than 25 institutions now as a lenders on its books. And this includes all categories. What makes me proud to say is that Ecofy was the first company to do the securitization of rooftop solar portfolio. It is probably one of the very few companies who managed to do ECBs in less than 3 years. It was probably one of the only companies who could do NCDs in less than 2 years. The lender profile includes public sector banks like SBI, private sector banks like ICICI, IDFC, larger NBFCs like Bajaj, Tata, and ECB lenders like IFU. That is most impressive.
Clearly, you have won the trust of your lenders. You've clearly shown that this is a business that investors can underwrite and invest in, but a long way to go as we look to build this business out. So it's interesting, Rohit, you raised the question of people, and it's a people business. And Rajashree, as you so eloquently articulated about how, as a people business, you've been building all these various capabilities. But one thing that I think very critically any business, and especially a startup like Ecofy, has to embody is the culture of the organization, and more importantly, the kind of communities in which you operate, right? Because your borrowers are literally the first or the last mile, whether it be gig economy workers running, electric vehicles, or it be small entrepreneurs who are trying to run their businesses. There's a very interesting, example of what you've done. That one experience has really stayed with me, and I'd love you to share, this experience about how you're working with women who are looking to basically make a livelihood by operating electric three-wheelers.
So true, Dhanpal. And this was about a year after we actually started Ecofy. We looked at organizing an event for EV three-wheeler women drivers in Chennai. When this idea first came up, I was a little skeptical because if you look at the numbers, Chennai has 2.2 lakh EV three wheelers, which are both ICE and EV, not EV, three wheelers, which are both ICE and EV, and only about 2,000 of them are actually driven by women drivers. So, when we thought of doing an event in Chennai for women drivers of three wheelers, we really didn't think too many people would come. We were pleasantly surprised to find that almost 150 women who managed to juggle the shifts of driving, they came in for a movie screening, but more importantly, for test driving the EV three wheelers that we had kept outside. Based on that Chennai event, we actually went back to the drawing board. And what we have today are more women friendly schemes with finer interest rates and also subsidy offers, which are available for our women borrowers. So that was just one example which led us along this path. So Ecofy finances green assets. That's a very wise and conscious decision, I would believe. Green assets have IoT devices embedded with them, and these devices actually relay real time information to us. This information is extremely valuable because it gives us an advantage a lender would love to have, which is traceability, which is early warning indicators, and finally, which is back-end control.
So it's an interesting point you made. It's not just about understanding the borrower well, but it's also about having a lot of data-driven understanding of the asset, which makes us a better lender and therefore a better party to work with.
Yes.
And that enables us to ensure that the credit costs are kept in check. And so while we are digital first, we have scale, we are branchless, yet our credit costs are in check. That's the key part.
So we've achieved a remarkable foundation in the last 3 years, where Ecofy was when it started to where we are today. What does the next phase of growth look like for the business over the next 2 years?
So yes, Dhanpal, we want to be the green lender of choice in the country. We also think that India will move towards a greener future. And as it so does, we, Ecofy, with its green IP and green data, will be at the center of the green ecosystem.
Ecofy is perfect embodiment of what we set out with. India needs sustainable infrastructure building institutions that also gets the participation from the retail. We have 1.4 billion people. We need to involve them into the India's green transition.
Thank you. This has been truly a very interesting, fascinating conversation where we are integrating capital, technology, a green transition, and finally putting it all together through a team and an organization which embodies very strong institutional culture, but at the same time is entrepreneurially driven and looking to essentially scale and become the lender of choice. Thank you both so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.